So I've gotten a few bug reports that I think it's time to fix. So I've created this little extra video that will fix these few bugs. And thank you very much to the people that actually reported these bugs so that we can fix them. So the first bug has something to do with items disappearing. If I open up the game here and I pick up some items, and I open up my chest here and I put the items inside the chest, well, then everything works fine if I close it and then I open it again. But if I spam my open close button like this very fast, well, then you can see that the item actually disappeared. So now I just lost an item for nothing, and we would need to fix that. The easiest way to fix that is to go to the player script, and in there we can make sure that we are unable to open up the inventory before it's closed totally, or open up the what's called the chest before it's closed totally actually. So let's try to go to the player script here, and inside the player script we will need to go to the part where we are pressing the E button here to close it and open it. And in here, before we open the chest, we would need to make an if statement that says if the chest that canvas group that alpha equals 0, or the chest that canvas group that alpha equals 1. And then we're going to put the chest open inside here. So what this is doing is that we're checking when we click our E button to open or close our chest, then we are going to check, well, is our chest alpha 0? If the chest alpha is 0, well, then we know the chest is already closed. And or if the chest canvas group alpha is 1, then we know it's already 100% open. So we can easily call chest.open to close it or to open it again. So this little if statement here should make sure that we can't spam our buttons to open close our inventory that many times and make our items disappear. Let's try it out. If we put in some items here and we spam our buttons, well, then you can see nothing is happening when I'm spamming it, and the item persists in our chest. So that was one of the bugs. Another bug that has been reported is the fact that if we place some of our some of our different panels here on top of each other, the part that overlaps will be unclickable. So if I would run my game right now and I would pick up some items here, I would be able to reach all the buttons over here and move my items around. But if I would take, let's see if I can find it, this one crafting bench, and move over here, even though it's closed, then I'm unable to click all these buttons over here, because the crafting bench, if you can see this little edge here that goes around here, overlaps the already shown inventory. And maybe you want, in some part of your game, you would like to be able to have more things stacked on each other without having them interfering with each other when they're hidden. So to do that, we need to play around with the block breakouts boolean here on the canvas group, because right now I can't pick up this item here because my crafting bench is in the way. If I move the crafting bench over here, well, then I'm able to pick up the item again, and as you can see, the tooltip also shows up again. But we would like to be able to interact with our inventory even though the crafting bench is hidden somewhere underneath or above it. So to do that, we need to check every single character, every single inventory, and click block raycast off on our character panel, on our inventory, and on our crafting bench, and in our chest inventory as well. So now they're not blocking the raycasts anymore, which means that you can actually click through them. But we would need to block the raycasts again whenever we open up the inventory. So if we open up our script, and I think it's inside our inventory, I think. Let's see if I could find it. Inventory script, here we go. So this is inside our inventory script, and there should be a function called open around like 200, I think. There we go. So here we have open. And in here we need to make sure that whenever we open our inventory, well, then we should change this block raycast to be true, so that we're blocking the raycast so we can click on the inventory without clicking through it as long as it's shown. But when it's hidden, then we don't want that inventory to block the raycast anymore, so we can click on everything else behind it or in front of it. So right now, if our canvas group alpha is larger than 0, well, then our inventory is visible and we're going to fade out, and we set is open to false, which means that this part here concludes that our inventory is closed. So we need to say canvas group that block raycast equals false. Down here, when we open it, we are going to say canvas group that block raycasts equals true, and we can save that. And then we can go into our Unity again, and in here we can basically test it out. If we select our inventory here, you'll see that block raycast is not enabled here. But if I would open up my inventory, then it enables block raycasts here, so that it doesn't block the raycast, so that it does block the raycasts. And if I close it again, you'll see that it pops off and on and on. There we go. So let's see if we take our crafting bench and move it totally on top of our inventory up here. You can see if I open up the crafting bench, it's in the same position as the inventory basically. So if my crafting bench is now closed, I'm still able to interact with everything that is inside my inventory, even though the two of them overlaps. So the last bug we need to fix for now is a little more tricky, because we need to make a little restructuring, or we need to create a new function actually inside our slot script, because I'm going to take some of the functionality and move it somewhere else. It's not that bad, it's going to be fine when we start doing it, but I'm going to divide it into different if statements to make it easier for you to understand what is happening and how everything works. I could basically make one very, very large if statement and have this work, but I'm going to make like 2, 4, 6, like 8 if statements instead, so it's divided. Or 6 if statements, I'm not sure how many, but about 6 or 8 if statements. The actual bug is something when you pick up some items here, you'll see that we can pick up a chest armor and equip it, and we're not able to take the pants and put on top of the chest here, right, to switch them out. But I'm only making the check in one direction, which means whenever I take something from my inventory and I try to place it on the character panel here, I'm not able to equip it. But if I do it the other way around, if I take this chest here and swap it with the pants, well, then the pants go into the slot here where the chest was actually supposed to go. And this shouldn't be possible. I don't want to be able to take pants on onto the area where I want to wear chests, or I don't want to be able to equip a head and then switch it out with my pants, so I have running around with pants on my head. So we need to add the functionality so that we are unable to swap stuff around and place it in the wrong spots here on our character. This fix is going to be fixed inside our slot script. So if we open up the slot script, you'll see inside the, what is the function called? Swap items, I think. Let's see if we can find it. Clear slot, remove item, remove. There we go. So right here we have all this functionality here that actually makes sure that we can swap our items. And we need to add some functionality so that we don't swap them the wrong way around. So to do that, we need to create a new function. And we can make this function underneath here, underneath our swap items function here. After the scope, we can call it private static bool can swap. And it's going to take a slot from and a slot to. Okay. So the reason we write static here is because our swap items function is static and we want to call this function here, can swap, from within our swap items function. As you can see, I can reach it now, can swap. You can see that I can reach can swap from within swap items. But if I would make this non-static here, then I shouldn't be able to reach can swap. As you can see here, it's not showing anymore because it's not static. And we made this one static because we want to reach it from outside. So we put static back here. So this function here is supposed to check if we can swap our items. So this functionality for checking if we can put our trousers on or our boots on or something, it's going to check if it's possible to put the boots in the slot we're trying to put it in, so we don't get that function where we can take the boots and swap them with a chest to run around with a chest on our feet, for example. So we actually need to remove some functionality up here. We can move this part that says that if moving type equals two-hand and so on, we can delete that. And we can move the moving type here up here actually. And we can basically take all this functionality in here and cut it inside this if statement here. That's if moving type isn't equal to offhand. We can cut it and paste it outside the if statement, and then we can delete this if statement down here with the if moving type offhand. Okay. So this if statement here needs to be changed as well. We need to delete everything inside it, and this if statement should just make take this function here, can swap, into consideration. So we just need to call can swap inside here. So we're going to say can swap. We're going to give it from and to. So basically what's happening here is that we are going to make a function down here that will tell this function swap items if it's possible to swap the two items we're trying to swap around. So basically everything up here should now be left as it is. So if we try to save now and we take our items, oops, let's see, we have something we need to fix. Yeah, we need to return something down here in can swap. I'm just going to do this temporary. Return false, because this function returns true or false depending on if the items were able to swap. So if we take one pair of pants we have equipped and we try to switch them with another pair of pants in our inventory, then it should return true because the two pants can be swapped. But if we would take the pants and try to swap them with some boots, for example, then it will return false, because the pants and the boots can't be switched. But of course the pants and the pants can be switched, so that's true. Yeah. Anyway, so just write return false for now. So if we go in here and we run our game, you'll see that I won't be able to switch stuff around now. So you can see I can't swap my iron shield with my potion, and I can't right click on my shield to equip it anymore. So we need to add that functionality, and that functionality is going to be written inside can swap now. Okay, so first of all we are going to make an item type, and it should be a from type, that item type we are moving from. You can zoom a little more so it's easier to see, and that's equal to from that current item, that item type. So this is the item type we are moving right now. So when I pick up something, when I go into my game and I click on an item like this, then our item type right now is the awesome axe here, or two-handed axe. So this is this one, from type. Then we need to make an if statement. If to that can contain equals from that can contain, then we are going to return true. Okay, so if the slot we are moving from and the slot we are moving to can contain the same items, then it's okay to swap them. So let's see, let's try to save and go back into Unity. So if now you can see we have a mana potion and we have a helmet, and both these items, or both these slots here in our inventory, has a see if I can find it. It has a can contain type is generic. So as you can see, everything has that generic can contain type here. So if I would try to switch these two, it returns true, and the items are swapped now because they can return contain the same thing. But right now I can't put it inside my character panel here because these two can't contain the same. This one can contain a helmet, and this one up here can contain a generic. So these two are not able to swap yet, but we'll add that functionality. Okay, so let's make it possible for us to equip some items. So we're going to make an if statement that says if our from type isn't an item type dot offhand. So if it isn't an offhand, we're moving. And the reason we are avoiding the offhand right here is because the offhand needs to be handled differently. For example, we don't need to equip an offhand if we have a two-hand in our equipped, and we don't need to equip a two-hand if we already have an offhand, and so on. So our main hand, our two hands, and our offhands needs to be handled in their own if statements. But right now we can say if we don't equip an offhand, and our two.can contain equals from type. So if the type we are trying to move from is equal to the type we're moving, the slot we're moving to, then we're going to return true. So let's save this, jump back into Unity. Let's see what we have here. We have a helmet. Can right click on it to equip it, and sword we can't because we don't have any weapons yet. Can right click on the shoulder to equip them, and so on. So all items except weapons and offhand is equipable now, but we still can't take them and place them in the inventory back. We're going to add that if statement very soon. But as you can see, we can equip stuff, but we can't equip it right now. So we can write outside this one, equipping items. Okay, so let's try to add the functionality for de-equipping an item. So if our two that can contain equals item type dot generic, because all our slots in our inventory is generic, and our two that is empty, or our two that current item dot item type equals from type. Okay, just gonna put this into parentheses so it's easier to read. Okay, so first of all, we're checking if the item we're moving to, when we're taking an item from our character panel, when we have equipped something, when we're taking an item here, we're checking if the item we're moving to over here is generic. So if 2 can contain generic, well, then we can start evaluating the rest here. So if it's a generic, then we know we are moving to the inventory. And if that slot we are moving to is empty, then we're just going to return true right away. Because if it's empty, we don't need to check if we can swap stuff around. But if it's not empty, if it's empty, or if 2 that current item type is the same as the from type. So if we have, in this case, a ring we're picking up and we want to place it in here. Now I haven't saved the code, but if we want to place it in here, we need to place it either on top of an empty slot or on top of a ring, so we can swap the two of them. So this is basically what we're making sure that we can only take items off and put them in an empty slot or somewhere where there's an item with the same type, so they can swap places. And this basically prevents the swapping of a ring and a pair of pants, for example. Let's try to save. Jump in here. And let's try to equip something. If we can get something else than weapons. Yes, we can equip this. Click on it and we can place it somewhere in our inventory. We can right click on it. We can pick it up. And we can try to replace it with the neck. And that's not possible, so it jumps back into place. So now we are only able to place it at positions where there's nothing to swap with or something of the same kind of item. So we can basically write here, if I could go out here without clicking wrong, we can write de-equipping an item. Okay, so the next thing we can take a look at is the main hand, because right now we can't equip the main hand either. So we are going to say if our from type equals item type dot main hand and it can contain item type dot generic weapon, return true. So this basically makes it possible for us to equip our main hand. Let's go out here, play the game, see if we can even pick up a main hand this time. Before I got so many main hands, of course I'm not getting any now. When I need, there we go, there's our sword, right click on it, and we have equipped it, and we're not able to swap it with other items as well. So that was the main hand. So we can write here, equip main hand. Okay, so we need two more if statements. We need one for our main hand, two hand, and one for our offhand. And as you can see, it returns true everywhere. So we could write one big long if statement, but it's more. I think it's better to divide it like this, so it's easier to get an overview of what we're doing. So if our from type equals item type dot to hand, and our to that can contain item type dot generic weapon, and our character panel dot, what should we take? It is offhand slot, character panel dot instance dot offhand slot is empty. Is empty. There we go. Okay, so if our from type, if we're moving a two hand and the slot we are trying to move it to is a generic weapon and the offhand slot is empty, then we are able to equip our two hand, so return true. Let's save this. Now we should be able to equip a two-hander without any problem. There we go. Right click on it and we just equip that two-hander. Let's see if we can get a shield. So right now we can't equip our shield, so we can't test if this works with a shield on or not. But we can equip our two hands. Last if statement, let's just write here, equipping two hands. So if our from type equals item type dot offhand and our character panel dot instance dot weapon slot is empty. So if our weapon slot is empty, or our character panel dot instance dot weapon slot dot current item dot item type isn't a item type two hand. Actually, I think I could leave out, should be able to leave out this part, because if it's not a two hand, okay, I need to check if it's empty first, else I'm gonna get an exception if I'm trying to check if it's two hand and it is empty already. Okay, so basically I'm doing my from type. If it's an offhand, then I'm checking first of all, do I have an item inside my main hand, in my hands? If I don't have one weapon in my hands, then I can simply equip my offhand. If I do have a weapon, then I need to check, well, is it a two hand or not? If it isn't a two hand, well, then I can equip the weapon, the shield. So return true. But if it was a two hand, well, then I wouldn't be able to return true. Then I would jump down here and return false. So let's save this and jump into Unity to give it a go. Let's try to pick up a shield. And if we can pick up a two hand or something. There was a shield. So now I can right click on the shield to equip it, and I can place it back in my back in my inventory here. But as you can see, there's a problem. We can switch the shield out with a weapon, which shouldn't be possible. We wouldn't like to be able to switch out our shield with all these kinds of things, because right now it only works when we try to switch out our other items for something else. So we need to add a little more in that if statement we just made, but at least we can equip our shield. Sorry. So basically what we need to do is to add some extra if statement here, or make a parenthesis here and say 2 if 2 is empty. If I could write right, this 2 up here I want to access, and 2 is empty, or 2 item type current item item type equals item type dot offhand. I can put parentheses around this here, and then I need to add an and here. Okay, so now I'm checking before I swap something around. I'm checking if the slot I'm trying to move to is empty, or if the slot I'm trying to move to has an offhand, so I can swap the 2 items. Let's try to save this and jump back into Unity and give it a spin. Let's see if we can find the shield. There's our shield, and let's pick up the shield and try to equip some boots, and we are unable to equip the boots now. So these few bugs that you guys just reported should have been fixed now, and the stat still calculates and everything should be working. Anyway, if you find some more bugs or there are some few more features you would like to have added to this this inventory tool, then please don't hesitate to write me an email or private message or a comment, and I'll see what I can do to add it to this this tutorial series. As usual, if you already bought the project, well, then you should just re-download the project to get all these new files, and of course they are also updated so the bugs are not there anymore. If you haven't done it already, then please consider either supporting me by downloading the project and buying it through the link in the description, or becoming a patron. If you become a patron for $5 a month, then you can get every single project that I ever made, all the code and everything included. And all assets of course are also included. So if you're a patron, you can simply go to the Patreon page and download all these things, so you don't have to buy every single project. So basically it's better for you if you simply just want all the projects. Then it's cheaper if you just support me 1 month on Patreon for $5 and then download everything that I have made. Anyway, thank you for watching, and thank you for reporting bugs and keeping coming up with new features.